All right, boys, we are in 2 finals this weekend, today and tomorrow, or I guess in real time it'd be Friday, Saturday for you guys. We are playing WPF and BBR finals respectively. We have made 3 straight Wi-Fi finals, and I think that speaks a lot to me as a player, and hopefully I've been focused in, man. We stay focused in for these last 2 matches because these are some of the most important matches I've ever played. I want these 2 finals so bad, man. It's been a while. Job's not finished, obviously. We gotta bring home some championships, man, for you guys. If this is your first video you are checking out by me, first of all, I super appreciate it. It means the world. Second of all, this is a team builder video. This will not be the actual match. This will go into a big deep dive of what our opponent's team is, what mons I think that they can bring, what we are bringing, and how we are going to try to facilitate a victory here and bring home that championship trophy for our Portland Night Shares as per usual. Playoff Jimmy, my finals Jimmy Butler jersey. We are here. We're gonna try to go with 2 finals in a row, man. If you've missed any of this season, man, in the top right hand corner you can start it all over with our draft analysis. We have Zamazenta and Hoopa Unbound, a lot of really cool Pokemon. Speaking of, let's give our team one last introduction. Our team is Chloe, the Zamazenta, Hoopy, the All Hoopa Unbound, Dame, the Gengar, the mascot, who is severely underwhelming this season, I will not lie, Volpocalypse, the Volcarona, Gobi, the Hippowdon, a fan favorite, we've got Dozy, the Dondozo, Lumps, the Colossal, the Soul Remover on this team. Ooh, the Rillaboom, who has been so good this season to me, man. I brought it to all except 1 games, and I didn't expect to bring it like at all. This mon has been very, very good. We've got Doey, the DACHSBUN, the Chloe Doey combo runs strong with this team. And lastly, we have McKagan, the Iron Jugulis. All of these Pokemon have been fantastic this season. The only Pokemon that I was really disappointed with this season was Gengar. Rillaboom and Iron Jugulis specifically have really impressed me this season and are definitely Pokemon that I would draft again in the future. I very much enjoyed them. Obviously, Zamazenta has been insanely broken, very difficult for our opponents to deal with on any front. And Hoopa Unbound, the 11-point All Hoopa Unbound, has been absurd. I think Zamazenta and Hoopa Unbound combined for about 30 kills in the regular season, and there weren't very many other kills to go around. But we're going into finals, man, and we're facing cbmarcus. CB is a good player, and I actually use his battle prep. I might leave a link down in the description below to the document that I used during the battles. He made a good document, man, and it helps keep track of things in the battle, so shout out to him for that. If I remember, I will leave a link in the description so you guys can copy it. If not, just remind me, man. We're taking this slow. We're going to go over his entire team. We faced cbmarcus once in the regular season. You can check that out in the top right hand corner. Both of our teams were a little bit different. I think I had Altaria and Wigglytuff over DACHSBUN, so not a lot has changed for me, but his team has changed drastically. He actually had picked up things like the Glowbro, the Hariyama, and the Dragonite that we ended up dropping, and he switched his Terra from Landorus to Kingambit, and Kingambit Terra is pretty scary into our team. I do think Terra Landorus would have been specifically better in this matchup, but the fact that he could potentially be whatever type he wants to be on Kingambit is going to be a little bit scary. We're going to run through all of the Pokemon really quickly that you see on screen, and then we're going to do a rundown of what I think each mon could bring, and then what mons I think can come and what mons I think won't come. cbmarcus's team consists of Palafin, Landorus, All Kingambit, Mew, Talonflame, Dragonite, Glowbro, Hariyama, Electrode Hisui, and Sneasler and Sneasel Hisui. I don't know what the word I just tried to say was. The only Pokemon that in this matchup I did not consider at all, I do not ever see coming, is going to be the Sneasel Hisui. That mon's really bad into us. We have a Zamazenta. We have a lot of Pokemon that outspeed and pressure it. There's realistically no reason that Pokemon should ever come. There are almost always, I won't even say almost always, there are 6 Pokemon more valuable than that Pokemon always. I would say every other Pokemon on the opposing side does what it could do better. So we're completely ruling that Pokemon out. We are prepping for the other 9 Pokemon specifically. Each one of the other 9 Pokemon could definitely make an appearance. The ones that I think are guaranteed going to come are the top 3, Palafin, Lando, and Terra Kingambit, and then Talonflame. I think those 4 guaranteed come. I think the 5th slot is either Mew or Galarian Slowbro. I don't really see you bring both of them when I have Gengar, Hoopa, and Iron Jugulis, but I do see you bringing one of them to try to help mitigate the Zamazenta. And then lastly, I really think Electrode Hisui is going to come, but maybe Hariyama comes, or maybe the other of Mew or Glowbro comes. Dragonite is realistically, in my mind, the least likely to come out of all the 9 Pokemon that I think can come. If he does bring it, great. I think we have good counters for it. It's going to be special in this matchup, almost inevitably. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So those are the 6 that I think he's going to bring. Now for each Pokemon, let's do a little breakdown. Palafin. Palafin, last time he brought a very, very cool special set with Mystic Water. He was Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Grass Knot, and Jet Punch. I think a similar set definitely could make an appearance. And I also think Choice Band makes a lot of sense. Just pivoting on the Pokemon that I have makes a whole lot of sense, and I didn't bring Dondozo last time, so maybe he doesn't fear it, man. He could just bring the exact same set and maybe replace something with Flip Turn, because I do think Flip Turn is invaluable against my team. Other than that, Bulk Up doesn't make any sense. There's no real other set that I think makes sense besides Bandit and Special with Jet Punch with a Mystic Water. I don't really see any other set coming in this matchup. And last time he was Naive or Adamant or something where he was not Speed Boosting, which I don't think he'll be this time. I think he'll expect us to prep for that. Next up is Lanad, the Landorus. Landorus is a really good matchup into us specifically because of its base 101 speed tier, invalidating something like Volcarona, and the fact that it gets Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and a combination of other moves makes it very difficult to switch into this Pokemon. Specifically in this matchup, it's very difficult to lock down what 4 moves you want. If it were me and I had the Lanad, in this matchup, I would be U-Turn, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and Grass Knot, but there are some other viable options. You could be Rock Slide, you could be Crunch, you could even be a physical set. Like there's a lot of options here, and just use it as a pivot. Or you could be even Calm Mind, Swords Dance. There's a lot of different options that Lanad can run here, but the one that I expect the most is simply going to be Life Orb with U-Turn, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and Grass Knot. That covers pretty much everything. I was Terra Water, Hoopa Unbound last time. That covers that, as well as the Dondozo. Sludge Bomb would be there for Rillaboom, and then I don't have another Earth Power resist on my team. It's just Iron Jugulis. With that said, specifically, Iron Jugulis would be able to switch in, but he can U-turn on that Pokemon, so I don't know how worried he is about that. Scarf also makes some amount of sense if he wants a way to revenge Zamazenta reliably, but if he is Scarf, he loses out on a lot of power, and we have a lot better time dealing with that Pokemon. Next up is Free Terra King Gambit, and oh boy, this is one of those matchups where Free Terra is so fun. Free Terra, obviously, I'm not a fan of it. I don't really plan on ever doing it again. I think it's very inherently uncompetitive, and I think King Gambit here shows why. In general, he didn't bring King Gambit last time because it has a really bad matchup. Now, he can Terra it, and it has a much better matchup depending on what Terra type he can choose. There are 3 types specifically that I really think that he could bring. The ones that I expect the most are Dark, if he thinks that he can deal with Zamazenta reliably. Sucker Punch is very free into my team. Otherwise, he could be Terra Ghost to wall the Zamazenta body presses and boost past me, but if I'm heavy slammed, then eventually we probably beat that in a one-on-one situation, so I don't know if I see that happening. And then Fire to hit the Zamazenta as well as the Rillaboom, I think makes a lot of sense. I didn't really consider any other type super heavily because any other type doesn't allow him to really hit Zamazenta. Like if he's ground, great, but then he's weak to Rillaboom, so does he want to do that? I don't think so. I think if he's a super effective type on Zamazenta, it's Fire. If he wants to offensively pressure us, if he wants to defensively pressure us, it's Ghost, or if he wants to ignore Zamazenta entirely, it's Dark. Those are the 3 options in my mind that he could be. Or he could be Poison. I mean, Poison also makes sense. It's kind of the same thing as Dark, but then you don't get a way to hit Zamazenta, so that's why I kind of pivoted to Ghost over Poison. He's going to be Supreme Overlord in this matchup. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's genuinely no reason for him to be Defiant unless he predicts Drum Beating Rillaboom or Charm DACHSBUN, and other than that, there's really no reason for him to be that. So he's 9 times out of 10 he's going to be Supreme Overlord. Really expect some sort of a Swords Dance variant. I don't think there's a better set in this matchup. You're just Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Iron Head, and then Terra Blast of whatever type you choose to be. Next up is Mew. If Mew is brought in this matchup instead of Glowbro, which definitely could make sense, I expect a very similar set to what he brought last time. Nasty Plot could make some amount of sense, definitely, but I have ways to revenge it with Iron Jugulis and Gengar and things like that, so I really expect, if it is brought, to be a more defensive set specifically aimed towards checking the Zamazenta. What he had last time was Thunder Wave, Earth Power, Thunderbolt, and Volt Switch, I believe, which is very good into my team, and I really don't see a reason for him to pivot off of that set. I think that set does very well into me, but it gets offensively pressured by anything that's not Zamazenta, which is why in my mind, he probably goes Glowbro over Mew, because I have Hoopa, I have Gengar, Volcarona, and Iron Jugulis. And if I bring those 4 Pokemon plus Zamazenta and then a 6 that can pivot like Rillaboom, then Mew is pretty much useless, man. It can get a spike up and take advantage of my poor hazard control in just Colossal, which definitely would make sense if he wants to value that. I'm not going to diss that by any means. But if I bring a hyper offensive team like that, which CB has said before that he thinks my team is insanely hyper offensive, then he should definitely fear that and not really bring Mew, and in its place probably bring Glowbro. Talonflame, another Pokemon that I think guaranteed comes. For one, its speed tier is fantastic in this matchup, and for two, if I do not run Stone Edge in this matchup, which is completely possible because I really have bad 4 move slot syndrome with specifically Zamazenta, that's what I'm talking about. If I don't run Stone Edge on Zamazenta, that Pokemon walls me forever. And it could just be some sort of Roost Will-O-Wisp dual stab set or Roost U-turn dual stab set. It really puts on a lot of pressure on my team. I don't really have great checks to it. It's just the Colossal, which he U-turns on and gets momentum into Landorus or Palafin. So I think it's definitely worth it to bring Talonflame. I think as a pivot, it is unbearably annoying for me to attempt to deal with, and it walls Rillaboom until the end of time. So I think probably Roost U-turn dual stab makes the most sense. Maybe he's mono one stab like Hurricane or Fire Blast, probably to hit the Zamazenta, with last move being Will-O-Wisp, but I really think Roost U-turn dual stab makes the most sense. Next up is Dragonite. I already talked about it a little bit. I don't really expect the Dragonite in this matchup. I think it matches up very poorly into my team. Because I have Zamazenta, Dondozo, and Hippowdon, it is already forced in matchup to run special. It has to run special, otherwise the set doesn't make a lot of sense. And with special, I have decent enough checks to it, like it doesn't really touch Hoopy. It could be mixed, but mixed doesn't make the most sense, and you have really bad 4 move slot syndrome. There's no real 4 moves that in this matchup super scare me. If he can't be banned at extreme speed, we have Gengar, we have Zamazenta, obviously he can't really lock into a move, can't be choice specs because we have Zamazenta, we have so much setup options and like Volcarona, we can outspeed him so easily. I really don't see Dragonite coming, but if it does come, it's probably Boots, Roost, 3 special attacks, or it could just be Boots 4 attacks. Next up is Glowbro. I think Glowbro makes a lot of sense in this matchup. If it were me, I would bring Palafin, Lando, Kingambit, Talonflame, and Glowbro would be my 5th slot because it does a decent enough job of checking Zamazenta. It obviously has pretty good Phys Def and obviously very good attacking stats. It can definitely be annoying for my team. He could be Nasty Plot. Nasty Plot's definitely a possibility. Trick Room is also a possibility just due to the nature of it being slower than everything. But the combination of Iron Jugulis plus Hoopa Unbound probably deters that a little bit. Like, the thing with his Psychic types is I offensively pressure them very well and have very good pivots into both of them. So they're very hard to bring, but he has to bring one of them to check Zamazenta in my mind. Next up is Hariyama. Hariyama makes some sense, but I think there are Pokemon more valuable than it. It definitely puts on some offensive pressure, but the combination of Hippowdon plus Dondozo really puts a hurting on it. And then obviously Zamazenta forces it to either run Whirlwind or forces it to switch out, as I can Iron Defense in its face, and I have a lot of ways to offensively pressure it with, again, Hoopa Unbound and Iron Jugulis, and even Gengar can do a lot of damage to it. So unless he really values Bullet Punch, which I don't think makes a lot of sense in this matchup, I don't think Hariyama comes. I think it's kind of in the same boat of Dragonite. And then lastly, Electrode Hisui. He didn't bring this mon last time, and I was a little surprised about it. I think this mon, specifically if paired with Flip Turn Palafin, puts on a clinic. This mon is very difficult for us to switch into. Our only real viable switch in is actually Rillaboom. And then obviously Hoopa Unbound can definitely take hits from it, but doesn't want to switch into a potential Thunder Wave. That mon can definitely get a little bit annoying. It can revenge the Zamazenta pretty reliably. And yeah, it's piss weak, man. And we do have decent enough switch-ins to it. But overall, I think Electro does pretty well in the matchup. And then we're not going to talk about Sneasel, because if it comes, he's throwing the game away. He's facing me with 5 Pokemon. So that is cbmarcus's team. I don't love our matchup. Initially, before I built, I was like, okay, this matchup is not bad. I like it a lot, but Terra King Gambit plus Lando and Palafin really put on a lot of pressure, and if he just brings some sort of a very heavy pivoting team, it could be very scary, specifically for the team that we brought. As for the team that we brought, first of all, shout out to my friend Obo, who you can check out in the top right hand corner if I do remember to link him at Obo_, if I do recall correctly, on YouTube, for giving me a couple mocks and making me feel a little bit more confident in this build, as well as OGalbina for throwing me a little bit of advice for my last Pokemon that we'll talk about. And normally I don't do this, man. Normally I built completely on my own, but it was finals and I have 2 in 1 week, so I'm stressing. I won't lie, I'm very stressed out. cbmarcus, I watched through his video. I tried to get a read on how he plays, how he builds, how he's built specifically versus me, the plays that he made, kind of get in his head and pick his brain a little bit. And the way that he took this matchup last time is, okay, John's team is strictly a hyper offense, so we're going to bring hyper offense to out hyper offense him. I First of all, I'm pissed that everybody keeps telling me that my team is HO because it's not. This is not how I drafted the team. I drafted the team to be bulky offense. And I think I've shown that, man. I think I've shown that consistently throughout the season. I brought, I think, 2 HO teams, one of them ironically against cbmarcus, but my team is not HO. I got some bulk. I got Rillaboom, Dondozo. I got Hippowdon, DACHSBUN. I've been using Jugu and Hoopa Unbound very bulky this season, and even Volcarona, man. I got a bulky team. He thinks my team's offensive. We are bringing a super, I'm talking one of the fattest teams I could imagine bringing in this matchup, and the whole idea is to outbulk him. His team is going to have a lot of trouble breaking through my fat, and my fat can also dish out some serious damage. Obviously, things like Hoopa Unbound and Zamazenta are fat Pokemon, but they can also dish out some very, very serious damage. So the first Pokemon, as per usual, is going to be Chloe the Zamazenta, and this set is the one that I needed a little bit of help on because I do have very, very heavy 4 move slot syndrome. The first time we faced him, I did not know that Zamazenta got heavy slam, so I was Howl with close combat, Behemoth Bash, and Stone Edge, which was not the best set. I think this set's definitely just objectively better. Iron Defense plus Body Press allows us to always beat King Gambit pretty reliably, unless he's Terra Ghost, and then it gets a little bit iffy. Heavy Slam, I'm gonna talk about Stone Edge first. Stone Edge is just here for us to hit the Talonflame, and it also helps versus the Dragonite, but Heavy Slam is where I bounced back and forth for a very long time. So Heavy Slam was originally Ice Fang. Ice Fang lets us pick off a weakened Landorus and a multi-scale broken Dragonite. I don't think it's super valuable compared to what Heavy Slam offers, because if Landorus is chipped, it's probably going to be significantly chipped. It's probably not going to be at 90%, 80%. It's probably going to be at about 50 with the team that we have. It doesn't want to take any hits, and if it does, it's in range, right? With that knowledge, if he's not Scarf, Heavy Slam can pick him off. And even if he is Scarf, Earth Power doesn't OHKO us. So I value Heavy Slam more just because I also pick off a potential weakened Mew and do about 30% to a Fizz Def Glowbro. And I value that more than Crunch specifically because of the damage potentially on Landorus. Zamazenta, it's been this way all season, man. This Pokemon is broken. It's going to be our in-game. It's going to be what we play towards. Iron Defense plus Body Press is absolutely just a nuke on something, and I like that more than close combat, so we don't get the defense drops for Jet Punch. And once we find out whether certain things are Scarf or not, this can definitely potentially win the game. We're going to be 16 HP, 36 attack, 200 defense, 16 split def, and 240 speed. Jolly. And I'll be honest with you guys, I almost brought Rest Hawk with mono body press iron defense, but the ever looming potential of King Gambit being there and the potential of Scarf Lando being there, Terra Ghost King Gambit and Dragonite, as well as even Talonflame, it made me really not want to do that, but I was very split def enough to live 2 Earth Powers from a defensive Mew, and then the idea was to push past a potential defensive Mew, but also there's just so many factors that made that set bad and made this set worse. So our EVs allow us to outspeed the Talonflame guaranteed because we have Stone Edge and we want to hit that Pokemon hard. We have enough Split Def to live 2 Palafin Hero Hydro Pumps if Mystic Water, not a boosting nature. We can 2-hit KO a Terra non-resisted King Gambit with our Body Press, and then we put the rest into attack. So we're very, very physically defensive this week. I'm not sure how many physical mons he brings. I'm not sure if Palafin's going to be physical. I'm not sure if Dragonite's going to be physical, but we do have enough defense to throw off heavy body presses. The whole idea with this Pokemon is just in-game. This Pokemon is what we work towards and what we try to win eventually with Zamazenta. That's how it's always going to be, and hopefully, man, Chloe can bring us a championship. Our next Pokemon is no different than any other week. The Robin to our Zamazenta's Batman. Hoopy, the Hoopa Unbound, is here to play, man. We're bringing a much bulkier set than last time, extremely fat. We are an Assault Vest set, which was a very common item that I ran on Hoopa Unbound all season, obviously, and this is to take hits from specifically Lando, but also if he's a special Palafin to catch that mon off guard, take a hit and blast it with Dark Pulse. We are Terra Water specifically to take hits better from the Palafin, but also in general, Water is just a fantastic defensive typing in this matchup with Dark Pulse, Psychic, Terra Blast, and Ice Punch. Dual Stab does very well in this matchup. Dark Pulse is necessary for both the Mew and the Glowbro. Psychic allows us to hit things a little bit harder and win some damage rolls and kill things like the Hariyama that, if he does bring, we otherwise would not hit. Terra Blast Water. Water is great neutral stab into our opponent. It hits the Lando and Talonflame super effectively, and there's not a lot of mons that resist it. Palafin can switch in, but doesn't want to take a hit afterwards. Dragonite can switch in, but doesn't want to take a hit afterwards. King Gambit can switch in, but if it takes the Terra Blast Water, we're already in a good spot to where Zamazenta can probably beat it in a one-on-one situation. And then Ice Punch is there to pick off an unsuspecting Dragonite because we didn't really need a fourth move. We could have brought like Grass Knot or Drain Punch, but overall I think Ice Punch is better because we're not really staying in on the King Gambit regardless. And if we get the Terra play wrong, we die. And we don't want our Hoopa Unbound to die. We're 216 HP, 92 defense, 48 special attack modest, 136 special defense, and 16 speed. We can outspeed a max speed Adamant King Gambit just to get some additional damage off, force him into a position to where he will have to sucker punch us. We can guarantee to it KO the Palafin with Dark Pulse and live 2 Palafin Grass Knots in the grassy terrain. We can live 2 Wave Crashes from the non-Mystic Water Palafin, 2 Grass Knots from the Landorus, and we put the remaining 36 into special attack modest because with Ice Punch we do minimum 94% to Dragonite, so it's not really going to matter anyway since it's going to probably have prior damage and multi-scale will be broken. So Ice Punch after multi-scale is broken does 94%. Hoopa's role here is extremely important, man. This mod is unbelievably valuable. It's here for the Lando, the Palafin specifically. It can also be here for the Talonflame to break the Mew, to break the Glowbro. It's pretty much here for any Pokemon not named King Gambit. Anything that's not King Gambit, we mash up very, very well against. And I don't want to spoil things, but keeping this Pokemon healthy is going to be crucial. Very, very crucial. Our next mon is the Alfred of the group. We're bringing Rillaboom. Rillaboom for some reason was the 3rd string over Volcarona and Gengar in this season. Bring Protect, Leech Seed, U-Turn, and Drum Beating with the protective pads. I was leftovers for a long time, but the fact that I think Talonflame is inevitably going to come makes me value pads a whole lot more because if we U-turn and we get burned, then we essentially don't have an item. So I would rather have the pads so we do have some form of an item, not get burned, and we do maximum damage still with our Drum Beating. We're obviously Grassy Surge. We need Grassy Surge in this matchup. It can heal things like our Zamazenta and our Hoopa Unbound and some more Pokemon that we have in the back, which is very crucial with a very bulky team like this, as well as substitute for the leftovers that we no longer have. Protect plus Leech Seed because this man does not really own a grass type. I don't really know that Electrode Hisui counts, and if he goes into that, then we U-turn on it pretty much every time because this is going to be our check to the Electrode Hisui. And then I like Drum Beating a lot to potentially lower speed on certain Pokemon that may want to switch into us, even something like the Talonflame that could be invaluable for. And the whole point with Rillaboom alleviates pressure from the Palafin. It helps us beat a Landorus if he does not carry Sludge Bomb, which he definitely should, and it lets us get momentum on things like the Talonflame. It lets us get Leech Seed recovery on things like our Hoopa Unbound, which is going to be very crucial. We are 112 HP, 8 attack, 88 defense, 240 special defense, and 60 speed. We can take 2 Ice Beams from the Palafin, and we can take 2 Ice Punches after leftovers, Terrain, and Protect. So originally I was leftovers, so this calc isn't going to matter as much. It's going to let us take it a little bit better with leftovers plus Grassy Terrain, and if we get a Leech Seed off, then we live it no problem. We can outspeed the -1 Landorus, and then we went the rest into attack. Our defense allows us to live a Palafin Adamant Banded Ice Punch, and then we can outspeed the -1 Lando, and we went the rest, the remaining 8, into attack. So we have so many different walls for Palafin plus Lando, but they could still definitely push past us. Rillaboom here is no exception. It can get Ice Beamed on, it can get Sludge Bombed on, but this Pokemon is here to be a nuisance, get some Leech Seeds up, forcing the Talonflame, get some pivoting going, and also help us against the Electrode Hisui, which otherwise, if we do not bring this Pokemon, is extremely, extremely annoying. Our next Pokemon, I opted not to bring the last time we played because I went for an HO build. This time, I'm definitely going to bring Dozy, the Dondozo, here again to try to help us wall the Palafin and the Lando and the Talonflame, and specifically also helps us with the King Gambit. We're Assault Vest, so we can take hits on both sides, Grass Knots from the Palafin, or we can take on a physical Palafin, no problem as well. Having Unaware for the Palafin, for the King Gambit, and for the Dragonite is also very, very nice. We're Wave Crash to do the most damage we can. I very much value having damage over the Liquidation this time, even though we have the Recoil, because the way this team is built, we shouldn't really care about the Recoil. We have Avalanche for the Dragonite, for the Landorus, and we have to be careful of it because I learned in mocks that Avalanche actually makes contact. So if we think Talonflame, for whatever reason, is going to switch in on our Dondozo, we have to be very careful with the Avalanche. Body Press to catch a Terra Dark King Gambit or a King Gambit that might not want to Terra because it's Terra Fire. And then we're Body Slam because I love baiting Paras more than anybody on this planet. If he doesn't want to switch in the King Gambit, if he wants to switch in the Mew, something like that, we can get a Body Slam Para. We're 112 HP, 96 attack, 52 defense, and 248 special defense with a careful nature. We can live 2 Landorus Grass Knots. This is going to be a mouthful, but we can live 2 hits from the King Gambit if 5 allies have fainted, and that's being Kotao Cleave. And then we put the rest into attack, so we actually do some decent damage, because 100 base attack is nothing great, but we can definitely do some damage. Dozy, again, all 3 of the last Pokemon, Hoopa, Rillaboom, and Dondozo are all here to help us with Palafin, Landorus, Talonflame, and Kingambit, and I think they can all do it very well, and we're an extremely fat core of those 3 Pokemon to kind of glue our team together. Our next Pokemon, I've loved saying this so much with this Pokemon this season, our guaranteed lead is going to be Iron Jugulis. This matches up very well into the Mew, into the Lando, into a Palafin that's not already in his hero form. Pretty much no matter what, unless the Kingambit is led, this Pokemon is a fantastic lead. Taunt is here for the Mew, as well as to prevent the Kingambit from setting up. U-turn for momentum into what I can only assume is the obvious Kingambit. Dark Pulse and Hurricane is fantastic stab that is unresisted in this matchup. This mon also gives us a fast breaker, the Pokemon to outspeed naturally the Landorus as well as the Palafin. We're 16 HP, 92 defense, 112 special attack, 88 special defense, and 200 speed timid. We can take 2 Jet Punches from Palafin if max attack Mystic Water. We take 2 Mew Thunderbolts if no invest. We can outspeed the Landorus, and then we went the rest into special attack. Again, this is our guaranteed lead. There is no reason not to lead this Pokemon. It matches up very well into practically everything, literally everything that's not either the Kingambit or the Electrode Hisui. That could be a problem for sure. But other than that, Iron Jugulis matches up very, very well. And then lastly, I said this before, the Clo-E Do-E combo is ridiculously overpowered. So we're bringing DACHSBUN here. And I know DACHSBUN to another finals. What are you doing, John? DACHSBUN is actually invaluable in this matchup. Just specifically with the build that we have, Passing Wishes is very viable, very possible with the 6 Pokemon that I think he could bring. Yes, we let in certain Pokemon, but the Pokemon that we go into to check those, get the Wish off, and then we're in a really good spot. So I actually love DACHSBUN in this matchup. Wish, Protect, obvious. We have Yan to potentially catch a Kingambit that may want to switch in on us, and then Play Rough for stab damage. We were originally Charm plus Body Slam, but Yan I think is a little bit better than Play Rough, gives us stab for something like the Dragonite. And Yan is invaluable because sleeping anything on our opponent's team is going to be crucial. We're 248 HP, 20 attack, 144 defense with an Impish Nature and a 96 special defense. We can take 2 Hurricanes from the Talonflame because this is, again, a fantastic Talonflame switch in as well. It gives us something to switch in that's not Dondozo in case they are Will-O-Wisp for whatever reason. We're going to eat that up and get a +2 defense boost. We can have a Banded Adamant Wave Crash from the Palafin, and then we put the remaining 20 into attack. And that is going to be the team, guys. We are bringing a super fat team to try to catch Cbmarcus off guard. He thinks our team is hyper offense, so we're going to show him that's not the case. We have Hoopa and Dozy, but specifically those 2, well, potentially the whole team. Obviously, there are a couple of nuances to that. Electrode Hisui can definitely get out of hand. Palafin, depending on the set that he brings, could definitely be out of hand. We are much more prepared for a special set rather than a banded set, so we really want to see that special set in this matchup. We have a good lead, we have good pivots, we have Wish support, we have Leech Seed support, we have the Zamazenta in-game. It's been a fun season either way, boys, and I appreciate you supporting me either way. Be sure to show some love to that like button down below, and leave a subscription while you're at it, man. We're at 1898 at the time of me recording this. We can get to 1900, we can get to 2000 relatively soon, and that's all thanks to you guys. Thank you guys for supporting this adventure, no matter what happens, man. But I plan on winning this championship. I'll see you guys on Friday with the match. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.